For decades, she stood beside one of America's most controversial megachurch pastors, silent, smiling, the perfect first lady, while her husband Creflo Dollar built a ministry empire worth millions, asked congregants for a $65 million private jet, and faced domestic violence charges after allegedly choking their teenage daughter. Taffi Dollar played her role. She defended him publicly. She stood by him. She was the model of the submissive Christian wife that prosperity gospel churches hold up as the ideal. But in 2015, something broke. After a trip to South Africa changed everything, Taffi Dollar admitted the truth. Her marriage was on the brink of collapse. She had been pretending to be happy for years, and she was done being silent. Today we're telling the real story of Taffi L. Dollar, not the fairy tale version the church sold you, not the Instagram perfect image of a power couple building God's kingdom, but the messy, complicated truth about a woman who spent decades in the shadow of a man, who finally found her voice, and who is now challenging everything the church taught her about gender, submission, and what it means to be equal. To understand Taffi Dollar's story, you first need to understand how it all began. In 1986, a young college student named Creflo Augustus Dollar Jr. started a Bible study at West Georgia College. He was charismatic, passionate, and had big dreams. He called his Bible study World Changers, and it quickly grew from a handful of students to over 100. It was at one of these Bible studies that Creflo met Taffi Bolton. Taffi was born on October 24, 1962, in Atlanta, Georgia. She would later graduate from Georgia State University with a bachelor's degree in mental and human services. By all accounts, she was intelligent, driven, and deeply committed to her faith. When she met Creflo, she saw a man with vision, someone who wanted to change the world. And in December 1986, the same year Creflo started World Changers Ministries, they got married. The first worship service of World Changers Ministries Christian Center was held in the cafeteria of Kathleen Mitchell Elementary School in College Park, Georgia. 8 people attended. Creflo and Taffi were there, along with 6 others. It was humble. It was small. But Creflo had a vision, and Taffi was all in. The church grew rapidly. They moved from the elementary school cafeteria to a modest chapel. Then they added a weekly radio broadcast, then 4 services every Sunday. By the mid-1990s, World Changers had become a phenomenon. On December 24, 1995, the ministry moved into the World Dome, an 8,500-seat sanctuary that cost nearly $20 million to build. The church claims it was built without any bank financing, a testament to the prosperity gospel Creflo preached. Give to God, and God will bless you financially. By 2007, World Changers Church International had approximately 30,000 members. Creflo's television program, Changing Your World, reached nearly 1 billion homes in practically every country in the world. Satellite churches opened in New York, Los Angeles, Indianapolis, Washington, D.C., Cleveland, Dallas, and Houston. Creflo Dollar had become one of the most successful televangelists in America. And through it all, Taffi was there, the dutiful wife, the co-pastor, the first lady of World Changers. She founded the women's ministry. She wrote books about marriage, family, and raising godly children. She supported her husband's vision without question. On the surface, they were the perfect power couple, but behind closed doors, cracks were forming. On June 8, 2012, at 1 a.m., a 911 call came in from the Dollar family home in Fayette County, Georgia. The caller was 15-year-old Lauren Dollar, Creflo, and Taffi's youngest daughter. Her voice was shaking as she told the operator what had happened. "I just got into an altercation with my father," Lauren said. "He punched me and choked me. It's not the first time it's happened. I feel threatened by being in this house." Deputies arrived at the Dollar mansion shortly after. Lauren told them that she and her father had gotten into an argument about whether she could attend a party. According to the police report, Lauren said the argument escalated when Creflo allegedly grabbed her by the throat, choked her for about 5 seconds, punched her, and hit her with his shoe. She had visible scratches on her neck. Lauren's older sister, 19-year-old Alexandria, was also in the house. She initially corroborated Lauren's story, telling deputies that she witnessed her father put both hands around Lauren's neck and choke her. But then something strange happened. When deputies asked Alexandria to write a statement, she wrote something completely different, downplaying what she had seen. When the deputy confronted her about the discrepancies, Alexandria admitted that it was because her parents were standing right there with her while she wrote it. Later, when separated from her parents, she wrote another statement that matched what she had originally told the deputy. And Taffi? She was in the house the entire time. But according to the police report, Taffi told deputies that she did not see the altercation. She only saw her daughter on the ground. She couldn't or wouldn't confirm what happened. Creflo Dollar was arrested and charged with simple battery and cruelty to children. He posted a $5,000 bond and was released. Through his attorney, he issued a statement. As a father, I love my children, and I always have their best interest at heart at all times. And I would never use my hand to ever cause bodily harm to my children. The facts in this case will be handled privately to further protect my children. The following Sunday, Creflo addressed his 30,000-member congregation. He admitted that there had been an altercation between him and Lauren. The truth is that a conversation with our daughter got emotional, and things escalated from there, he said from the pulpit. And then something remarkable happened. The congregation gave him a standing ovation. They rallied around him, defending his actions as biblical discipline, claiming he was being persecuted for his faith. The charges were eventually dropped in January 2013 after Creflo completed a court-ordered anger management program. The incident faded from the headlines. The ministry continued. And Taffi remained silent. She never publicly spoke about what happened that night. She never validated her daughter's accounts. She stood by her husband, just as a submissive Christian wife is expected to do. But something was breaking inside her. Years later, Taffi would admit in a 2018 interview with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that before her trip to South Africa in 2015, she and Creflo were on the brink of separation. She had been pretending to be happy in her marriage. She had been forcing herself to play a role that no longer fit. The 2012 incident wasn't just about Creflo and Lauren. It was about Taffi, too. It was about a woman who had been taught that her role was to submit, to support, to stay silent, even when her daughters were hurt, even when the truth was right in front of her. If the 2012 domestic violence incident raised questions about Creflo Dollar's character, the 2015 private jet scandal raised questions about his priorities. In March 2015, Creflo Dollar Ministries launched Project G650, a fundraising campaign to purchase a Gulfstream G650 private jet. The price tag? $65 million. The ministry posted a video on their website asking 200,000 people to each donate $300 to help buy the jet. The video explained that the ministry's current airplane, purchased in 1999, was 30 years old and no longer safe. They needed a new jet to spread the gospel around the world. And not just any jet, but the Gulfstream G650, described by the ministry as the biggest, fastest, most luxurious, longest range, and most technologically advanced jet, by far. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Critics from within the Christian community and outside of it slammed Creflo for asking congregants, many of whom were lower-income worshipers, to fund his luxury lifestyle. Contemporary gospel artist Kirk Franklin tweeted, "When I camouflage my greeds to look like needs, that's a shortage of character." Ole Anthony, president of the Trinity Foundation, a church fundraising watchdog group, told CBS News, "In Creflo's church, there is no accountability. He runs it like a fiefdom. The chairman of the board of Texas Instruments, or AT&T, can have a whole fleet of jets, but they're not begging for money from people and getting a tax write-off in order for them to establish such a lifestyle." Within days, the campaign was shut down. The video was removed from the website. A spokesperson for the ministry said there was no longer a campaign for a jet and that Creflo would take commercial flights. But the damage was done. The scandal reinforced the public perception of Creflo Dollar as a greedy prosperity gospel preacher living lavishly off the donations of his congregation. This wasn't the first time Creflo's finances had been scrutinized. In 2007, U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa launched an investigation into 6 televangelists, including Creflo Dollar, regarding the personal use of church-owned assets. Creflo was labeled the least cooperative of the 6. He refused to fully cooperate with the Senate Finance Committee, arguing that the IRS, not Congress, was the proper entity to examine religious groups. The investigation concluded in 2011 without any charges, but the Senate issued a report criticizing the lack of financial accountability in the ministries. Ministry Watch, an independent organization that reviews Christian ministries, gave Creflo Dollar Ministries an F grade for financial transparency. The ministry declined to disclose financial information to independent auditors, making it difficult to understand where donor money was going. Creflo Dollar owns multiple multi-million-dollar homes in Atlanta and New Jersey. He drives Rolls Royces. He lives a lifestyle that most of his congregants could never afford. And yet he preaches prosperity gospel, telling people that if they give generously to the church, God will bless them financially. Critics call it spiritual manipulation. Defenders call it faith. Through all of this, Taffi remained by his side. She was listed as the CFO of Creflo Dollar Ministries. She ran the women's ministry, she wrote books, she smiled for the cameras, but inside, she was struggling. And in 2015, everything changed. In 2015, Taffi Dollar traveled to South Africa to speak at Rhema Church's annual women's conference. She was invited to sit on a panel discussing sexism, gender inequality, marital rape, and other moral crimes perpetrated against women. It was supposed to be just another speaking engagement, but for Taffi, it became a life-changing moment. At the conference, Taffi met women who were challenging traditional gender roles in the church. They were talking openly about biblical equality, the idea that men and women are equal in creation, value, and dominion, as instituted in God's original design. They were questioning the interpretation of Scripture that had been used for centuries to keep women in submissive roles. Taffi had always believed what she had been taught, that wives should submit to their husbands, that men were the spiritual leaders of the home, that women's primary calling was to support their husbands and raise godly children. She had written books promoting these ideas. She had taught these principles to thousands of women. But sitting in that conference in South Africa, surrounded by women who were pushing back against those teachings, something clicked. "I wanted to tell everybody," Taffi later said in a 2018 interview with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. "Gender should not dictate our role in society. I should have the same opportunity to explore and develop and grow into what I want, including be a minister, politician, or doctor." When Taffi returned home to Atlanta, she started digging deeper into Scripture. She talked with her 3 daughters and other family members about biblical equality. She began to see how men had used Scripture to manipulate women, to keep women in their place, and she realized that she had been complicit in that system. "I really felt like I had defrauded myself and my girls, and maybe, in some instances, appeared weak as a role model for them and some of the other women of the church," she admitted. She had taught her daughters to be submissive. She had modeled silence in the face of injustice, and after the 2012 incident with Lauren, she had failed to validate her daughter's truth because she was too afraid to challenge her husband. Before her trip to South Africa, Taffi revealed she and Creflo were on the brink of separation. She had been pretending to be happy in her marriage for years. She was done forcing herself into a role that didn't fit. She was done being silent. When she confronted Creflo with her newfound understanding, he was hesitant. Creflo Dollar, not prone to taking risks, was concerned about how the congregation would respond. But Taffi wasn't backing down. She wanted more say in the day-to-day decisions at World Changers. She wanted to be seen as more than just the first lady of the church. She wanted to be a co-leader, an equal partner. In 2016, Taffi wrote and published Gender Roles: The Grace of Mutual Submission, a book that challenged traditional teachings about gender in the church. In the book, Taffi and Creflo wrote jointly about how their understanding of the Bible had changed their marriage from one where the man was solely responsible for leadership to a mutual partnership where they exchanged their weaknesses for each other's strengths. "If men and women can see each other as equals, we will have the most beneficial outcome in every area of our lives," Taffi wrote. "Without this kind of understanding, we limit ourselves and the potentiality of every relationship." The book was controversial. Some praised Taffi for her courage in challenging patriarchal church structures. Others accused her of promoting liberal theology and undermining biblical authority. But Taffi didn't back down. She followed up with another book, The Grace of Mutual Submission, and launched the Radical Revolution Women's Conference, focused on transparency and becoming the women God created them to be. While Taffi's journey toward gender equality is her most significant recent achievement, it's important to recognize the work she had been doing long before her South Africa awakening. Taffi L. Dollar is not just Creflo Dollar's wife. She is an accomplished entrepreneur, author, and ministry leader in her own right. Taffi founded the World Changers Church International Women's Ministry and Prestige Ministry, a nonprofit organization focused on empowering and building the self-esteem of women involved in the sex industry. Prestige aims to demonstrate the love of God to these women and offer real solutions to change their lives. She also founded Radical Women's Ministry to promote unity and sisterhood among women. Since the early 2000s, Taffi has served as CEO of Arrow Global Entertainment, a cutting-edge, faith-based entertainment company that includes Arrow Records, Arrow Soul, Arrow Studio, and Arrow Entertainment. Under her leadership, Arrow Global has signed artists like Ann Nesby, Kim Burrell, Jeff Sparks, and Sean Locke, and has produced festivals, live shows, and recorded music that reaches audiences around the world. As an author, Taffi has written over 20 books on topics ranging from marriage and family to gender equality and spiritual growth. Her titles include A Woman After God's Own Heart, Marriage Enhancement, 21 Days to Your Spiritual Makeover, and Gender Roles. Her writing is characterized by her willingness to be vulnerable, to admit when she's been wrong, and to challenge systems that harm women. Taffi's message about gender equality has resonated far beyond World Changers Church. She has spoken at conferences around the world, and men as well as women have responded positively to her teachings. Christopher Spence, executive director of Taffi Dollar Entities, told the South Florida Times in 2018 that we've heard from men all over the world who have said it was liberating for them to realize they do not have to take on all of the responsibilities associated with leadership by themselves. In 2024, Taffi's ministry continues to focus on empowering women, restoring balance in Christian families, and challenging the patriarchal structures that have dominated church leadership for centuries. She represents 70% of the pew, but only 25% of leadership in most churches, and she's asking the hard question, why is that? Taffi Dollar's story is complicated. It's not a simple tale of good versus evil or victim versus villain. It's the story of a woman who spent decades playing a role, who was complicit in systems that harmed her and her daughters, and who eventually found the courage to change. The 2012 domestic violence incident remains a dark chapter in the Dollar family's history. Taffi's silence in the aftermath hurt her daughters and sent a message to other women in abusive situations that loyalty to your husband mattered more than protecting your children. That's a painful truth, but it's also a reality that many women in conservative Christian environments face. They are taught that submission is godly, that questioning your husband is rebellion, and that keeping the family together is more important than standing up for what's right. Taffi's transformation didn't erase the harm that was done, but it does show that people can grow, that beliefs can change, and that it's never too late to find your voice. Her willingness to admit that she was wrong, that she had defrauded herself and her daughters, is rare in church leadership. Most pastors and their spouses double down on their positions. Taffi chose a different path. Her work on gender equality is important because it comes from within the prosperity gospel movement, a movement known for patriarchal leadership and financial excess. For Taffi to challenge those structures while still remaining within the movement is significant. She's not an outsider criticizing from a distance. She's an insider saying, we got this wrong and we need to do better. The question now is whether Taffi's message will lead to real change within World Changers Church and the broader prosperity gospel movement. Are men genuinely sharing leadership with women? Are women being elevated to senior pastoral roles? Or is this just lip service, a way to soften the church's image without fundamentally changing the power dynamics? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear. Taffi L. Dollar is no longer content to be the silent First Lady. She's found her voice, and she's using it to challenge a system that kept her in the shadows for far too long. Taffi L. Dollar's journey is a reminder that transformation is messy. It's not linear. It doesn't follow a neat narrative arc. Sometimes, the people who benefit from systems of oppression are also trapped by them. And sometimes, finding your freedom means admitting that you were part of the problem. Taffi spent decades as the model Christian wife, standing by a man who was investigated for financial misconduct, who faced domestic violence charges, who asked congregants for $65 million to buy a private jet. She defended him. She supported him. She played her role. And then she went to South Africa, sat on a panel about gender inequality, and realized that she had been living a lie. Her awakening didn't erase the past. It didn't undo the harm. But it did give her a chance to change the future, to rewrite the script, to teach other women that they don't have to accept a subordinate role in their marriages, their churches, or their lives. Whether you see Taffi as a hero or an enabler probably depends on your perspective. But what's undeniable is that she's challenging conversations that need to be had about gender, about power, about what it means to be equal in the eyes of God. Taffi L is no longer the puppet. She's claiming her place at the table, and in doing so, she's inviting other women to do the same. What do you think? Has Taffi done enough to address the harm that was done, or is her transformation too little, too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.